What's up guys, it's Apollo here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with a new interesting fiction that has been in my collection for some times and I have read and enjoyed and I wanted to share it with you guys. So as usual, the name of the fiction as well as the author's name will be in the description. You have to go and support him as well and like his content as usual. And aside from that, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I am going to be making this story and completing it on this channel as well. And if you have any other ideas or suggestion of your own that you can give me, comment down below. It can be either from Dragon Ball Z, from Naruto, or even from My Hero Academia, but not from One Piece, please. I don't hate the anime, it's just that I haven't watched it. It's just way too much damn long and I don't have that much time. I'm so sorry, okay? Aside from that, just make sure you leave a like and subscribe to my channel and yeah, enjoy. Let's begin with our today's story. Our story begins. He had never felt such power. It was overwhelming and beyond his wildest imagination. His body felt as if it had been turned to stone. He couldn't move a muscle as the calamity towered over him, its shadow covering most of the mountain range. It wasn't moving, but every subtle twitch of its body sent quacks along the ground and shook the foundation around him. Its mouth was closed, but a low rumble came out as it crawled. Then there was its eye, its one lone eye. It was as red as blood, with strange black rings and tomos surrounding pupil, and emanated power. But despite all of this, he felt no fear. Perhaps it was because he had nothing to lose. Everyone else had perished, crushed by the beast's overwhelming power. Pools of blood covered the ground, forming into rivers as the foundation of the earth shook. Hundreds upon thousands of corpses lay still and burning on dirt. With his sensory abilities, he could still feel the lingering chakra of some of the most precious people. He could feel their life fade away as their death sunk into his consciousness. He was the only one left. Everyone else has perished. He had failed to save any of them. I'm sorry. The ground shook heavily as he was nearly knocked to the ground as the monstrous took its first step. Its 10 towering tails were swaying from side to side, threatening to flatter any person or mountain within its reach. Its mouth slowly parted, revealing jagged and razor-sharp teeth. Covered in its slimy saliva, it looked hungry, not for food, but for death and destruction. Its only want, one thing, to destroy every living thing in this world and start anew. He started up at the beast with his azure blue eyes connected to its lone powerful orb and wondered, is this really the end? All this time I had thought that I could become powerful enough to save everyone. Even if I could defeat the Jubi now, what's the point? So I can be with the King of Ashes? Suddenly a deafening earth-shaking roar of devastation blasted from the beast's gaping mouth, sending gales of neck-breaking winds towards the corpse-covered land. It shreds the ground and tore away at the remaining earth. Then as it breathed back it, thousands of small red and blue orbs of chakra gathered around its mouth, slowly forming a gargantuan orb, almost as big as its body. It was almost pitch black in color and was suffocating. What should I fight on? There's no point anymore. A shockwave that shaved off the top of the surrounding mountains pulsed from the monster as it fired its attack directly at the lone survivor. The ground was split open by the sheer power of its speed, its traveling, and soon towered over the man. Maybe I must just die. I should die. A blinding light covered the entire mountain range and all was silent. Link break. A pair of azure blue eyes snapped open and a man bursted from his bed. His breathing was quick, as if he was close to hyperventilating, and cold sweat covered his bare torso. His entire body was shaking and he could actually feel the adrenaline slowly leaving his system, rendering him tired and weak. What the hell was that? He slowly calmed from his nightmare and combed his fingers through his blonde hair, making it even more spiky than usual. He felt that his scalp was moist from sweat, making him shaking his head and sigh. He had never experienced such a vivid and horrific dream. In all honesty, he was surprised his brain could even conjure such a imagery. Putting on his glasses before looking over at his clock, he saw that It was still early, only 5 a.m., making him sigh again. He was wide awake, and despite his weak and tired form, he doubted that he would be able to fall asleep again so soon. He simply pushed his pillow upright and leaned back against the headboard of his large bed, letting the silence and peacefulness darkness relax him. As usual, his grey curtains were parted and the moonlight seeped in, casting a serene white light in his bedroom. Seeing the familiar placing made him relax and more, and he calmly closed his eyes to rest. That's it. No more crazy hero movies before bed with the girls. After a few more minutes, he decided to just start his day. No longer with shaky feet, he stepped onto the cold but cozy hardwood flooring and headed towards the bathroom. He jumped into the shower and turned the water to higher heat than usual. He could feel his exhaustion leave him as his skin tingled as his eyes cleared. He spent much more time standing under the shower than usual, trying to rid himself of the worst nightmare of his life, or what he would do before he could remember it for the most of his life. In his memory, he had only lived 12 years. He was in his late 20s, but he could recall anything before his 16th birthday. The earliest memories were of him waking into the local hospital and the doctor informing him of his car accident. Apparently, he had been in a head-on collision with another car and had broken nearly every bone in his body. The doctors were genuinely shocked that he managed to wake up from such a devastating injuries. It was not short of miracle, but he had suffered a serious case of amnesia and could barely remember how to speak. It took him quite a long time to finish his recuperation in the hospital, but he could survive on his own 18 months later. He started to regain some of his knowledge, but not substantial memories of his past life. All he of himself was from the wallet the police found on his person that day on the accident. His name was Namikaze Naruto, and he was a citizen of New York City, United States of America. He had a driver's license, of social security number, even a gym membership, but other than that, nothing. He had no family or girlfriends. He was alone, well, for the first year, anyway. Man, today is going to be exhausting. Naruto jumped out of the shower and dried himself before looking in his mirror. His hair was grown quite long. The bangs nearly framed the sides of his face and mostly of his forehead, but he saw something weird for a split second. He saw that his eyes morphed into the same eyes that monster had in his dream, but it was gone as soon as he noticed. Shaking his head, Naruto chuckled to himself as he squinted some toothpaste and brushed his teeth. I am going crazy. He dressed himself after some time in his usual style. He had on a black dress shirt with top few buttons open, tucked in a pair of light gray jeans with a white belt. Slipping into his black socks, he stepped into his black dress shoes. Hearing the usual clacking footsteps of his own, stepping down the hall of mahogany hardwood, Naruto turned to the last door on the left. With a gentle turn of the knob, he silently slipped into the teddy bear and plush-filled room. He smiled at the sight of his little princess, slipping away with all the innocence of the world, her little face pressed against her pink pillow while her blanket was kicked off the bed. It's time to wake up, sweetie, Naruto whispered as gently as he could before he kissed his little girl's forehead, making her squirm with a groan. Oh, come on, Lacey. 5 more minutes. Now that will be just making you sleepier. Naruto smiled and lightly brushed his daughter's own long blonde hair behind her ear. Come on, you have to get ready for school. Lacey slowly opened her eyes, though she had a pout on her face. She gave her daddy her most innocent, puppy-eyed look and raised her arms up. Can you carry me, Daddy? Naruto sighed with a suppressed smile. Sure, you little minx. The little girl, even at 5 years old, still fit perfectly in his arms. Cradling her close to his chest, Naruto rested Lacey's head on the crook of his neck and kissed her forehead, and he made sure to rub his hand along her back so she wouldn't be cold after leaving her warm bed, and quickly placed her down in front of the bathroom. And I had promised to brush my hair today, mumbled Lacey as she rubbed her eyes. I know, I'm right here. Anamata Nobikaze stepped out of her own room, already showered and dressed for school. At the age of 9, her maturity was far beyond her years. Good morning, Dad. Naruto smiled at his eldest daughter and kissed her forehead. Morning, Annie. He ran ahead over her combed blonde hair that she shared with him, her little sister. Help your sisters get ready. I'll make some pancakes for you. Yay! Exclaimed Lacey. With vanilla syrup. Sure. Dad, you still have to sign that permission slip for me. I already did, sweetie. It's on the table. Naruto furrowed his brow as he ran his hand through his hair again. Something he would do with he would feel stress. He hated leaving his daughter to go around the city on a field trip, but Annabeth had him wrapped around her little fingers. But as much as he wanted to deny it, he was a little happy. What dad didn't want to be bossed around by his little darling daughters and princesses? Naruto smiled at the thought of his two princesses as he started on the pancakes. They were so much like their mothers, it was a little shocking. He would never forget the eyes of his first love back in his college days. Yeah, he actually went back to the college. After his recuperation, he found out that his past self had already started on a business administration degree at the New York City University, and he managed to learn his way back in. That was also when he met Annabeth's mother, Athena, one of his professors. When one would hear such a name, they would usually think of the ancient goddess of Greece, not a living goddess of Western civilization. It was real. Athena, Annabeth's mother, was a real goddess. He really had a hard time believing it when the goddess of wisdom had told him of her true identity. He had thought she tried to prank him, though it was even harder to believe that even though he did not get laid, he ended up having a daughter with his gorgeous professor. Apparently, Athena was capable of having children with men she could connect with at a mental level, like Naruto when he shared a very nice semester together. Discussing warfare tactics, the blonde had no idea where he had such knowledge from about wars and how to win them, but apparently it was enough to impress Athena, so much so that she decided to have his kid. Naruto smiled at the thought. She gave me one of my princesses. Annabeth was Naruto's life, from the moment Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and Athena dropped the little bundle into his arms 9 years ago. She will forever be someone he would love unconditionally. She was the perfect blend between him and her mother. She had his blonde hair, slight tanned complexion, but had Athena's intimidating and endearing grey eyes. His daughter was perfect. It smells great, Dad. Annabeth walked into the kitchen and sat down at the dining table, smiling at her daddy as he cooked his usual great breakfasts. Wow, finished with Lacey's hair already? From what Naruto knew about his young princesses, it surprised him that Annabeth managed to satisfy Lacey's standards of her hair in such a short time. Even at such a young age, Lacey loved to be pretty and cute. Yep, I had a lot of practice. Naruto scooped the first batch of pancakes onto a plate and placed it onto the counter. Annie, no books at the dinner table. He gave his daughter a knowing stare, making her sigh in defeat before he placed the book under the table onto the table. You will have plenty of time to read later. Annabeth pouted at her dad, but I was getting to the good part. I don't care. No reading at the table. Remember? Naruto smiled at his princess. Be a good girl and I'll take you and your sister for ramen tonight. The girl instantly grinned and nodded. Okay. If there was one thing the girls really inherited from him, it would be his love for ramen. Daddy! Daddy! Lacey came running out after she finished dressing, looking absolutely adorable in a little blue sundress and her hair tied into a small braid. I'm hungry. Is breakfast ready? Yes, yes. Come get your plate, girls. Annabeth and Lacey both happily ran for their own plates before quickly sitting down back at the dinner table. Naruto smiled at the sight of his little girls devouring their breakfast, or for Lacey drowning her pancakes into vanilla syrup. Lacey is also very much like her mother. Naruto knew what was wrong with his life or why he was so lucky, but he had two goddesses in his life. The first of his relationship was with Athena, but that was purely intellectual. He had never even kissed her once, but the second was very different. While Athena was confident, smart, and gave off an aura of authority, the second goddess in his life was playful, seductive, and extremely stunning. She had met Naruto when she visited his work, Sweets on America, a candy store he opened after he finished school. It was just a small store located at the end of Grand Central Station, but one day his extremely beautiful woman walked in and she was stunning. Naruto froze at the moment his eyes laid on her. She was the definition of beauty. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and that included Athena. She had long red hair that reached her lower back and the face of an angel, and her eyes was a shade of purple that made his heart flutter. He could still remember how he felt she was and how excited she was when she practically skipped into his store, leering at all the candy like a predator. It was only a few minutes after she walked in that she told him her name, Aphrodite. Normally, when a person would meet a woman named Aphrodite, they would think of her as a joking or something, but after having a brainchild with Athena, Naruto grew suspicious. He asked her right away, "Are you goddess?" Well, let's just say they got along very well quickly. He showed her all the candy in the store and they chatted the day away. Long story short, Lacey arrived a few short months after. Slow down, Lacey. The pancakes are not going anywhere. Naruto said, Lacey having her daddy's big smile and nodded. It's so good. Naruto sighed at he sipped on his coffee, wondering if he would ever see the mothers of her children again. He had never seen either of them again after they dropped off their respective daughters to him. Tina gave him a sweet smile and hug before she just vanished. A parting gift was much more intimate and steamy, but she had not shown herself to him afterwards. The watch just vanished from his life, never appearing to him again. To be perfectly honest to himself, he felt a little bit depressed. Maybe I should just go find a girlfriend. Link break. Woody Elementary School, the one place Naruto loathed. It wasn't necessarily a bad school, but Naruto hated leaving his daughters alone for such a long time. If he had one more time on his hand, he would homeschool them for himself. If there was one thing he would always remember of the gods, it would be the moment when Hermes had told him that demigod's children will always be in danger. As they grow and as their powers develop, they will emanate a scent that will attract all kinds of monsters around them. This is the main reason Naruto hated leaving his princesses alone. Did you bring your lunch? Yes. What about your extra juice box? Yes. Do you even remember what I told you? Never leave the group. Always follow your teacher on your field trip. Yes. Remember to wash your hands when you have the chance. Those museums are very dirty. Yes. Remember to not read your books when walking around. Yes. Remember, Dad. Annabeth cried with a slightly red face as she glared up at her dad. I remember everything. Stop reminding me. She felt a little embarrassed at her dad's constant overprotective nature, especially when they were all walking up to the school and there were many other kids with their parents around them. She could hear some of the other kids' moms smiling over at them, whispering how sweet and loving her father was. I'll be very careful. Lacey, who has been holding on to her daddy's hand as they walked, giggled. Annabeth looked funny. Annabeth held on to the strap of her backpack and tilted her face up, looking high and mighty. I'm almost 10 years old, Dad. You don't have to be so protective. Naruto smiled at the princess, trying to act grown up, and how she looked shocking like her mother. No matter how old you are, you will always be my cute little princess. He kissed her lovingly on the forehead before he messed with her hair. Now be careful and be sure to be here when I pick you up later. Annabeth was blushing from the embarrassment but smiled back nonetheless. Okay, Dad, see you later. The father watched his eldest walk into the building before he continued to his way to the kindergarten section of the school. He smiled at some of the other parents as he walked past them, most of which were women. It was like disconcerting for him to receive strange leers and lustful glances from the other parents, especially since the children were right next to him. Even Lacey seemed to sense something and pulled him along faster. She didn't like those looks the women were giving off to her daddy. Okay, princess, remember to listen to your teacher. Naruto leaned down to kiss her little princess on the cheek, smiling as she giggled. I'll come pick you up in the afternoon. I know. Bye-bye, Daddy. Lacey hugged her dad around his legs and grinned up at him. I love you. Naruto smiled and kissed her forehead. I love you too, sweetie. He smiled as he watched his little girl skip into his classroom, happy to see her friends again. He was about to leave for work, but was stopped by someone. Mr. Namikaze. He turned around and was surprised to see Lacey's teachers walking towards him. It was a pretty sight. Miss Turner was beautiful. She was a young teacher, probably one who just finished her education degree and wanted to try teaching kindergarten. She had long brown hair that reached her lower back and was very pretty. Nowhere near Athena or Aphrodite standards, but as far as normal humans go, she was gorgeous. Good morning, Miss Turner. Naruto smiled and met her halfway. What can I do for you? Please just call me Katie. The teacher smiled with her green eyes sparkling. We had another meeting last night and decided that we need some more volunteers to help with the day-to-day operations, so I was wondering if you have some spare time. Naruto actually felt happy at the news. I would love to help out, just give me the time and date, I'll arrange my work around it. Katie smiled approvingly and nodded. That's great. That being said, if you don't mind, can you help me with something now? Now? The blonde looked down at the watch and shrugged. Sure, I have a bit of time. Thank you very much. Katie reached for his hand and started to lead him into the school. I'm supposed to bring these boxes of worksheet and coloring books to the classroom, but they are really heavy and I can't lift them. Well, I'm happy to help, Naruto said, wondering if she wouldn't let go of his hand anytime soon. Not that he minded having a pretty girl holding his hand. Naruto walked through the hallway of the school, which was mostly scarce of people since class had most likely started. Katie walked, still holding on to his hands, and led him back to the school where most of the files and papers were in the storage. They turned to the last corner and was met by a double door, which Miss Turner unlocked swiftly. Just these boxes in here, Naruto nodded and stepped into the room, but Didn't see any boxes, only walls of shelves. Where did you say these boxes were? Suddenly the sound of the door closing could be heard and Naruto turned around to see Katie leaning against the door. She had a mischievous smirk on her face, nothing like the sweet smile she would usually have. Is everything okay? You smell really nice today. The blonde felt a little weird, just not, thank you? Without any warning, Katie walked up to Naruto and kissed him hard on the lips. He was shocked and his eyes were wide, but he couldn't deny how great her lips felt against his. She pushed him to the back of the room, his back knocking down on the files of the shelves. Her tongue forced her way into his mouth and darted around wildly, as if trying to taste him fully. To top it off, she shook Naruto's hand and placed it down her shirt, making him fondle her chest. To say that Naruto was shocked would be an understatement. Miss Turner looked like a perfect, elegant, and calm young lady, but now she was proven to be a vixen. Her eyes turned into a cunning and vicious glare instead of usual kindness. He couldn't kiss back. She was too far forceful and violent. You could feel her nails digging into the back of his neck, and her teeth were starting to bite into his tongue. It was one of the worst kisses he had ever experienced. Miss Turner! Naruto cried out, shoving her away. What in the hell is wrong with you? The woman laughed as it sent chills down Naruto's spine. It sounded so weird, so evil. The real frightening changes happened. Her healthy tan skin started to morph into grey and crusty layers. Her brown hair turned into white and became wild as her eyes turned black. One of her legs started to shake and quiver, and soon Naruto noticed that it had been replaced by a wooden peg. Then there was her fangs. Those looked like vampires. Naruto started on the back of the horror into the shelves. What in the hell are you? Her voice came out raspy and maniac. I'm Billy. Nemposie. What? I'm sorry for butchering the word. I don't know, okay? Naruto demanded loudly. Billy moaned as she smirked, revealing her black teeth and elongated fangs. You smell so good today. She reached up to her chest and fondled her crusty breast in ecstasy. I thought it was only your daughter who I wanted to feed on, but I was wrong. You smell so much better. Hearing the monster mention his daughters knocked Naruto back to reality. You stay away from my daughters. He said lower, his anger palpable. Lily clutched her stomach as she laughed crazily. You will be the main course today, and little Lacey will make a perfect dessert. Naruto gripped his fist until his knuckles were white. He glared at the monster. Die! The thing launched itself towards Naruto. Its long nails started to run through Naruto to keep him still. Her mouth was salivating as her eyes gleamed with hunger. Now any normal father would probably piss their pants at the monsters charging at them, but Naruto was not exactly normal. Quickly reacting, Naruto reached back to the pocket, one of the shelves, and used to top the shelf to direct himself as he jumped up, almost reaching the full height of the room. At 9 feet, Naruto looked down at the monster, which was shocking at his action, and kicked her hard as he could in the face. The force of his kick forced the thing to stagger back to the edge of the room, slightly disoriented. I'm going to kill you, monster. If there was a thing Naruto knew that he excelled at, it would be fighting. He charged at the monster, grabbing its long white hair with his left hand and pulled his head into his right fist. He heard a distinct crack before he kicked her once more, sending her back to the wall. Naruto glared angrily at the thing as he ran up to it and grabbed its head, dug his finger hard into her hair and slammed its head into the wall as hard as he could, denting and drywall instantly. Naruto knew he needed a tougher surface to smash the monster's head into, so he turned to the steel shelves and slammed again, but the thing used its leg to stomp Naruto's foot and hand kick him away. It turned to glare at the slightly wide-eyed blonde man and his bleeding face badly. I'm going to give you a slow death. Its raspy voice was shaking with anger, and its nail grew large in length. No, if I can help it. Naruto spat from the fire extinguisher and quickly used it to hit the thing in the face. He repeatedly slammed the extinguisher against the monster's face, making it cry out in pain every time. He didn't count how many times he had struck the thing, but he didn't relent until his arms wouldn't move anymore. Billy lay on the ground, still alive. This is impossible. No human should have such strength. Naruto didn't want to take any chances and quickly stomped on the monster's chest. Just die already! He slammed the fire extinguisher straight down on the monster's face, crushing it against the cement floor. He did it again and again, ignoring the cries of pain and wails from the monsters. He closed his eyes and just let his strength guide him, and it continued on. Then suddenly Naruto felt his weapon hit the ground instead of the monster's head. He quickly opened his eyes if it had escaped to see it, but he sighed in relief when he saw a pile of gold dust on the ground, just like the hellhounds did last time. He sighed in exhaustion and sat down on the ground, dropping the dented fire extinguisher to the ground. I knew today was a bad day. Link break. Sweet on America was Naruto's pride and joy. He opened it a year after his graduation with his life savings, and it had been going fairly well. It was located inside the Grand Central Station, and business was improving over time. Many people find it a good idea for some sweets after lunch or dinner, and his shop would be a nice, convenient place for them to visit after getting off the subway. It varied from young adults working nearby or children with their parents, but they would all leave his store with smiles on their faces. That was what really made Naruto love his job. Candy and sweets are universal, just as Bordaddy had told him. He stepped into the red, blue, and white themed store and smiled when he saw that there was already a line in front of the register. "Good morning, Mr. Namikaze." "Good morning, Sally," said Naruto as he smiled at his best employee. "Sorry for coming in late, but it's been a hectic morning." Sally smiled and waved him off. "It's perfect fine. I got this under control." Sally Jackson had been working for Naruto for almost a year already, as she was a great employee. She worked hard and was punctual. The customer loved her, and she looked beautiful in the store uniform. Another good thing was that her son was also a student at the Goody Elementary and was a friend of Annabeth. "Did you drop off Percy this morning?" asked owner of the store as he walked behind the register and helped her out. Sally nodded and smiled. "Yep." He wasn't exactly excited to go to the museum, but he still went. Naruto chuckled as he gestured to the next customer. Annabeth could stop talking about it for the whole week. "Well, I'm glad Percy and Annabeth are friends. I hope someday her good habits will rub off on him." The blonde merely smiled and nodded at his customer. "Good morning and welcome to the Sweets on America." In one morning, he woke up for a nightmare, cooked a killer breakfast, dropping his daughters off at the school on time, killing a strange slutty monster, and managed to get to his store in time. It was the usual day for Namikaze and Naruto, just as you would expect as a father of the two beautiful demigod princesses. As this is where I'm going to be leaving this first part off, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. As this is Apollo, and I'm signing off for today. Peace!